I just thought you'd be interested in hearing from a couple of our partner home buyers who have been in their homes for over a decade now. Betty, who was my very first family that I served, and another family in Linwood that we completed a home for as well.
As a single parent, being mom and dad all at once, being a team mom in every sport you can think of, being a classroom parent. One of the reasons why I had to stay in Downey was because my two older boys are high-functioning autistic boys. My oldest, Joshua, he didn't speak until he was in 3rd grade. And if you know anything about autism, they don't like change. They will suffer.
I had been on my own pretty young since I had my first son, Alex. I had him when I was 16. I was working 2 jobs. My mornings started at 5:30, and they didn't end till 6 or 6:30.
Habitat for Humanity came to my life in one of the most dire moments. 2007, 2008, it was creeping up on us. My boss calls me one day and she says, I have some really bad news. I'm gonna have to lay you off. I needed to do something. And one of the things that I was considering doing was separating my family. Sometimes it's out of your control. I was swimming as hard as I could and I was still sinking. And the lifesaver was Habitat.
Have a lot of things that go on in life. I'd say all of them hit me at some point as a single mother. But I always knew that I wanted to have a steady home. I never took my eye off the prize. You know, in the back of my mind, I knew it was something that I was gonna have.
Habitat for Humanity doesn't see you as an unemployed single household with 3 kids. You'll never qualify. You know, they see you with these other glasses that are rosy, and they say, hardworking woman, willing to put in the work, we're gonna give her a chance.
There's a phrase that it's just more and more becoming central to my faith, and it's the phrase "among us." In the 12th chapter of Exodus, the author talks about the alien, the stranger living among us, but then the next line is, "There shall be one law for both the native and the stranger." And to me, the words "among us" is about no one being an other. And so what we like to talk about is we talk not instead of people, those who are homeless or those who are jobless or those who have cancer or those who are grieving. We say those among us who are homeless, those among us who are unemployed, those among us who have cancer, those among us who are grieving, those among us who are rejoicing. And the idea is that when we think of each other as an other, then we objectify each other. We, in very subtle ways, dehumanize each other. I really try to think about the MAGA people among us, because that helps me remember that this is a part of us. And in my tradition, Christ's command to love our neighbor as ourselves. Again, there's one law, and there is a law of love. And to me, the key to what is happening and has been happening at All Saints with the Safe Haven program is that this is not a ministry to. This is not the people of All Saints Church who have addresses and, drive to church or whatever, ministering to these other poor, unfortunate people. It is like, no, we have members among us in our community who are homeless, who are housing insecure. So what are we going to do as a community for those people among us? And that is that is what really has driven this from the beginning, is recognizing that this isn't a ministry to. This is a ministry of people in our community, among us right now, who are challenged in a specific way. And what that also means is people who are challenged in that specific way also minister to other people in the community who might be challenged or rejoicing in a different way.
Just to give you a sense of statistics, in 2023, we provided 1,298 showers, 386 haircuts, 2,533 meals, 31 people saw mental health professionals, 84 people saw a doctor, and that's for a complete medical review and history, not just a brief thing. And to date, this year we've been providing these services at an even higher rate than we did last year. So we're pleased at how our program is going, and pleased that more people are coming to take advantage of it, and that we're making more friendships with people. Most importantly, I want people to understand that this is a portable program that can, with really not very much work, be established and maintained anywhere. I know that the city of Pasadena Housing Department is really hopeful to have more safe havens. And I hope that some of you will consider or talk other people into considering putting on a safe haven program. And I hope that you'll consider just coming by and visiting us on Monday mornings from 9 to 1, or on Thursday mornings at 10:30. Come shadow us, see what we do, and know that I and everyone at All Saints is willing to share all of the information to make this work, all of the paperwork that's involved. You wouldn't have to do it. We'll give it to you, and you just change our name to your name. It's not difficult. You just have to have a couple of dedicated volunteers to implement the program. And I really want to be a cheerleader for other people doing this and setting it up. It takes time. I mean, there's one gentleman named Angel, Mike knows him, who's been on the street for 10 years and really struggled with structure. But he has a 10-year-old, 12-year-old daughter, and he has a relationship with her mother, and a cordial relationship. And it was important to him to get into housing so that his daughter could come spend the weekend with him. And so he kept that, and we try to keep people focused on the goal here, what's important to them. And he went through all the steps. He was with us for about a year and a half, going to weekly mental health meetings that we gave him a private room within our offices where he could take those phone calls. And he finally got through all the steps. We were able to get him into an ADU in Pasadena and provided the furniture for him and a TV and all the things that he needed. And he called me one day and said, "My daughter just spent the weekend with me," and he was crying. Mm. He said, I can't tell you, you kept telling me to hang in there, and I did. And now she can come and spend the weekend with me. So a lot of times, finding out what's most important to people is what we can do to keep them involved in the program and keep them staying there to get through these difficult processes.
So one way we dispel myths is through educational work like this and showing people examples of affordable housing and so forth. But another thing we do is share stories. She was homeless for 10 years on the streets of Pasadena, and then became housed, and her life has been transformed. She's now working full-time for the Baptist church in our city. And I want to share with you her story.
My name is Morgan Tucker, and I work for Making Housing and Community Happen. MHCH is a nonprofit organization dedicated to educating and empowering congregations for housing justice. I'm so pleased to introduce Cynthia Kirby to you today. Cynthia is a valued member of the MHCH community, and she serves on Union Station's Lived Experience Advisory Panel. Cynthia is here to share her inspiring story with us today.
My name is Cynthia Kirby. I'm 49 years old, a wife, and a mother to an amazingly strong 19-year-old daughter. I was placed on permanent disability at age 28 and went from making $60,000 a year to less than $1,000 per month. The strain of my disability ended my first marriage. My parents provided some support until I wound up in an abusive relationship that brought with it criminal elements and crystal meth. I spent the next decade in and out of homelessness, struggling with my addiction and domestic violence. I slept in my car, stayed in abandoned houses, or moved from motel to motel. The night I turned 40, I spent in a grocery store parking lot, afraid to fall asleep. I had just met my current husband, relapsed after 8 years in recovery. I'd also been in recovery, but I had struggled with the program's spiritual emphasis. I was curious about how he'd come to believe, and he shared the Word of God with me. But life seemed hopeless, so I leveled an ultimatum at whatever higher power might exist. It had 1 year to convince me to continue living. In that year, even though my mom died, my husband was incarcerated, and I waited for him desperately alone on the streets of Pasadena, God wooed me, building the foundation of my relationship with him. At the 1 year mark, my husband was released from jail, and I took it as a sign that God listened. We wanted to get married and find housing, but we had few options on disability income. God used connections we had made on the street and in recovery to help us achieve stability. My husband was accepted into Union Station Homeless Services Adult Center. 3 months later, we were married, and I was invited into the program. We received a housing voucher, which included permanent supportive services, people helping us to rebuild our lives, though it took nearly a year to find an apartment because of the affordable housing crisis. Today, I'm a member of Union Station's Lived Experience Advisory Panel, work part-time at my church, First Baptist Church, Pasadena, and am the director of our children's choir. I have more than 8 years of sobriety. I'm a student at PCC and have nearly a 4.0 GPA. Gratitude for a life I never thought I would have, and my amazingly intimate relationship with God carry me. When I heard about Jill Shook and her work in Pasadena, I attended a housing justice workshop, became a member of Making Housing and Community Happen, and served as their liaison with my church. It has been a blessing to advocate for permanent housing solutions, to be a part of direct democracy, to realize that my voice is powerful. Working with Jill, I've been to city council meetings, had one-on-one meetings with council members, spoken with the mayor, and who am I? Can I do this? I'm a citizen and a community member, and my voice matters. Everyone should support the pioneering work of Making Housing and Community Happen, to equip faith communities to be the church, be the hands that feed. Please join us in building a better community.